All right, get ready for this one because today we are diving deep into one of those stories that's just wild, but also really insightful. You guys sent us this video
hmm
called Malicious Compliance, playing the long game against a scammer. And oh man, it's a roller coaster.
Ah, sounds like it.
It features this IT guy, Tom, who gets one of those classic scam emails. The ones like, congratulations, you've won $50,000 in a lottery you never entered. Most of us would just hit delete, but Tom, he's
Hmm.
like, nope, I'm going to play a game with this.
Interesting how something that seems like a straightforward scam can actually show you all these layers of psychological manipulation. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game, but online.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So Tom, since he's in IT, knows right away that it's a total scam. But instead of ignoring it, he writes back like a really believable response. He even pretends to be super excited about winning. Like he really commits to the whole thing.
oh, that's important for the scammer, to build trust and use the victim's excitement against them. It's like setting a trap.
And then they start going back and forth, right? Tom keeps stringing the scammer along. The scammer even gives a name, Mr. Johnson, and Tom asks for all these increasingly ridiculous things. First, it's a fake check, then his wife needs proof, then a notarized letter. It just keeps getting crazier.
That's where the malicious compliance comes in. Tom's carefully following the scammer's directions, but he's doing it in a way that totally messes up their plans. He's like turning their own game against them.
And Johnson, the scammer, is getting more and more frustrated. I was practically on the edge of my seat watching it all happen. Finally, Johnson just snaps. He calls Tom, totally furious, demanding the money.
That outburst, though, that's calculated. It's meant to pressure Tom,
Right.
make him feel like he's the one holding things up. It's a way for the scammer to shift blame to the victim and distract from how ridiculous the whole thing is.
Whoa, I didn't even think about it that way. That's crazy how these scammers use psychology. Like, they really know how to manipulate people.
It's all about creating this sense of urgency, playing on emotions like greed and fear. They want to keep the victim off balance so they don't think straight.
So instead of hanging up, Tom just leans into his role as this, helpless husband who's totally whipped by his wife. He's basically messing with the scammer at this point.
Which brings us to a bit of a tricky question, ethically. I mean, Tom's intentions are good, but even if you're being careful, messing with scammers can be dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. Things could get out of hand. And Tom could have put himself in a bad situation, but he decides to go all in.
Right, and he sends one final email, but this time, no more playing along. He exposes the whole scam. He even attaches Johnson's selfie. Remember, Johnson asked for photos earlier as proof, and the caption is like, tried to scam $500 and got played instead.
Yeah.
Boom.
It's a total takedown, and then nothing, silence for days, no response. It's almost creepy. And then suddenly Johnson sends one last email, you will regret wasting my time. Chills, Ray.
It's not a direct threat, but it's definitely meant to make Tom feel uneasy. It's like a reminder that even if you think you outsmarted a scammer, they can still make you feel vulnerable.
Totally. Yeah, it makes you wonder what could happen next. But if you look at it from a technical side, Tom's story is a perfect example of how you can disrupt a scam by maliciously complying. He saw through it, played along just enough to get evidence, and then used their own tactics against them.
Exactly. It shows how important it is to understand how these scams work if you want to protect yourself. Maybe we should break down some of the common tactics, like starting with phishing.
Okay, phishing. So that's like when you get scam emails disguised as something legit, right? Like a message from your bank or a website you use.
Exactly. And they even use real logos and stuff to fool you. They might say there's a problem with your account or that you need to update something urgently.
So how do you know it's a phishing email? Seems like it'd be hard to tell sometimes.
One thing to check is the sender's email address.
Yeah.
You really got to look closely because it's often just a little bit off from the real one. Like maybe the domain name is misspelled or there's an extra letter or something.
Oh, so like bankzeroofamerica.com instead of bankofamerica.com?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sneaky, right? And never click on links that are just right there in the email. Like if it says it's from your bank, it's safer to open a new tab and go to their actual website to see if there's really a problem.
That makes sense. But what if you accidentally click a phishing link? What happens then?
Worst case, you could end up on a fake website that's made to steal your login info. They might ask for your username, password, even those security questions.
That's scary. So what should you do if you realize you've been phished?
You got to act fast. First thing, change your password for that account right away. Then contact the real company or bank to tell them what happened.
And you should probably check your credit report too, right? Just to be safe.
Definitely. Better to be safe than sorry. And keep a close eye on your bank statements for any charges that look weird.
So Tom's story was all about email, but these scammer tricks are everywhere, right? Like all over social media too. What kind of scams do you see popping up on those platforms?
Social media scams are definitely becoming more common. You see everything from fake accounts pretending to be celebrities or businesses to phishing attempts that look like they're from your friends. There are even these elaborate romance scams.
Romance scams, like people pretending to be in love just to get money.
Sadly, yeah. They create these super detailed profiles, build a connection with you, and then start asking for money. Could be for emergencies, travel expenses, or even some kind of investment opportunity.
That's awful. How do you avoid falling for something like that?
Be careful with anyone online who seems way too into you way too fast. Like if they're saying, "I love you" after only a few chats, that's a big red flag.
What about if they start asking for money?
Nope. Never send money to someone you've only met online, no matter how convincing their story sounds.
Good advice. Okay, so then what about those offers that sound too good to be true? Like those ads promising you'll get rich working from home?
Ah, the classic get-rich-quick scheme. Remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So all those ads like make $5,000 a week from your couch are scams.
Most likely. There are real work-from-home jobs out there, but they won't promise you crazy money or ask you to pay fees up front. Be careful with anything that feels like a high-pressure sales pitch.
Makes sense. Now, what about those quizzes and games that go viral on social media? Are those safe?
Not always. Some of them might seem harmless, but they're actually collecting your information. Like they might ask for your email, birthday, even your favorite color.
But your favorite color, how can they use that?
It's all about data. They're building a profile based on your answers, and then they can use that to target you with ads or even make those phishing attempts more believable later on. It's all connected.
That's kind of creepy. It seems like you really have to be careful about what you share online, even on stuff that seems fun or harmless. So with everything we've talked about, it seems like the best way to avoid scams is to be skeptical.
Exactly. Question everything. Don't be afraid to ask for more info or do your own research before clicking links, giving out information, or sending money. And if something feels wrong, trust your gut.
Good advice. Your intuition is a powerful thing. If something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. But let's say, even though we try to be careful, we fall for a scam. What should we do then?
Don't panic. You have to act fast. But don't let shame or embarrassment stop you from getting help. There are resources out there and things you can do to fix the damage.
So who should you contact first?
Depends on the scam. If you've lost money or someone stole your identity, report it to the police right away.
And what about your bank or credit card company?
Yes, definitely contact them ASAP to report any charges that shouldn't be there. They can help you freeze your accounts and fight those fraudulent charges.
So report it to the police, your bank, and anyone else who might be affected, right? Like if you shared personal info with a scammer, you might need to contact those companies too.
Exactly. And if the scam happened online, it's super important to report it to whatever platform it was on.
Like the social media site, website, or wherever you found the scammer.
Right. And there are organizations like the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and the Better Business Bureau, BBB, that keep track of scams and can give advice and support to people who've been scammed. You're not alone in this.
That's good to know. Sounds like there's help out there, even if you do fall victim. But like you said before, prevention is always best.
Absolutely. By staying informed, being careful, and following the tips we've talked about, you can really lower your chances of being scammed.
So it's all about awareness, being skeptical, and taking those extra steps to protect yourself. But it's not just about protecting ourselves, right? It's also about protecting other people.
That's a great point. If you come across a scam, tell your friends and family about it to help them stay aware. We can all work together to fight these scams.
Totally. By working together and looking out for each other, we can make the internet a safer place for everyone. Now, going back to Tom's story for a sec, we've talked about the tactics scammers use, but what about Tom? What made his approach to malicious compliance so effective?
I think a few things made Tom so successful. First, he was really patient. He didn't rush anything, which let the scammer keep showing their tricks and feel like everything was going to plan.
Like he was setting a trap, kind of.
Exactly. And second, Tom knew a lot about technology, which really helped him. He spotted those red flags right away and used that knowledge to expose the whole thing.
Yeah, his IT background was key. He knew what to look for and how to use the scammer's own stuff against them.
Right. And lastly, Tom was really careful about keeping track of everything. He saved all the emails, took screenshots, and even recorded that phone call with Johnson. That gave him solid proof.
That's so important. Just thinking someone might be scamming you isn't enough. You got to have the proof.
Absolutely. Tom's story also shows how important it is to stay calm in those situations. He didn't freak out or anything, which let him think clearly and make smart choices.
It's got to be tough, though, right? When you've got a scammer trying to mess with you, it's easy to get caught up in the moment.
Totally.
Hmm.
But staying level-headed is super important. Now, even though Tom's plan worked out, we got to remember that messing with scammers is always risky. It's not something we usually recommend.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing with fire. You never know what they'll do or how they'll react.
True. But Tom's story does make you think about some interesting ethical questions. Like, is it ever okay to play with a scammer, even if you're just trying to expose them and help others?
That's a tough one. I get why someone would want to turn things around on these criminals and stop them from hurting people, but then there's also that chance things could get worse and someone could actually get hurt.
Yeah, it's complicated. No easy answers. But I think the big takeaway is that we need to be talking about these things. We need to know the risks, the tricks scammers use, and what could happen if you mess with them.
Definitely. And we got to support each other, share info, report scams, and help out anyone who's been scammed.
Well said. To wrap things up for our listeners today, let's give them some resources where they can learn more and get help. First, there's the Federal Trade Commission, FTC website. It's got tons of info on scams, identity theft, and consumer protection. You can find them at ftc.gov.
And don't forget the Better Business Bureau, BBB. They're great for checking out businesses and reporting scams. Their website is bbb.org.
And if you want advice specifically about cybersecurity, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, has some really good stuff. They're at cisa.gov.
Awesome. All right, so with all those resources, we're going to sign off for today. But remember, the fight against scams never really ends. Stay aware, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
And never stop questioning. Thinking critically is the best way to protect yourself online.